Hello everyone and welcome back to What's Left of America. I'm John Iadarola and I'll be walking you through an hour for what passes for news in this country. And joining me as always on this most fantastic of days, Francesca Fiorentini. How's it going?
Our Lord and patron saint of the Monday.
Glad to have you here.
I miss commuting. I mean, actually I don't, I gave up a full-time job a while ago, but does anyone else like miss a Monday morning commute? Just to leave their house and feel human, you know?
I mean, there's a reason I'm in this big abandoned building. It's because I pushed to be the first back because I wanna go places, I wanna do something new. I don't want much of a commute, but the 3 miles I have to bike or drive to my place, I'll do that, that's fine.
Yeah,
I get it. But supposedly there's some good news on the pandemic, not like in the here and now, that's all nightmare stuff, that's demon souls in real life. But soon, good news, and we'll have that for you in just a little bit. Lots of news to get to, obviously. For those of you who are already watching, please hit the like button because notifications just don't notify anyone. I don't even know why they're called that. They don't work, but you liking it might. You can share the stream or whatever that looks like, try it out. And if you chat along with us, send us tweets and super chats and all that, we'll be responding as we go. Before we jump into our first story though, how was the Bitchuation room yesterday? Your show that you do every weekend.
John is such a gentleman. Ladies first, let's talk about me and my show on a different show. Yeah, it was great. Great podcast. Nato Green was back. We had Barbara Smith, who is a kind of legendary black feminist, kind of coined the term identity politics. She was on the phone. It was hard. Listen as a podcast is gonna be better, but it was fun. We had a great turnout, so.
Interesting. You know, I hope that someday I will be a person who coins a term that you then have to release out into the wilderness and it becomes whatever the dumbest, most dishonest people in America want it to be, as every word does.
Everybody misunderstands it, even though it changed the world. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like political language is basically like season 2 of Stranger Things. You have this cute little thing, this creature that you love, and then you let it out and it becomes a monster because everybody treats it poorly. That's basically how language works.
Like a nerd being like, you're not using it right. It's hard.
Yeah. Anyway, I could go off on a long tangent and probably will despite my best efforts, but lots of other news to get to, so why don't we do that and see what's going on in America. Over the weekend, it looked briefly like Donald Trump was ready to acknowledge reality for the first time in his life. And many people around the country, including people I like, leaped to that and said, oh my God, it's happening. Is he acknowledging he lost the election? And I resisted the urge to do a live video because I suspected that Donald Trump is gonna Donald Trump. And it turns out that he did. Now, what is the clue that got everybody on the edge of their seat? It was Trump tweeting this. He won because the election was rigged. No vote watchers or observers allowed. Vote tabulated by a radical left, a privately owned company, Dominion, with a bad reputation and bum equipment that couldn't even qualify for Texas, which I won by a lot. The fake and silent media and more. Okay, so all of that's just misinformation. Dominion was in a couple states.
Equipment?
I don't even know.
You mean like, remember the brand from the 90s, like bum equipment? That was like a shirt. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, yes, keep going with this ridiculousness.
Yeah, we can try to figure out what bum equipment is, but a lot of this is you have to have Fox News brain to understand any of that. It's nonsense. The first 2 words are he won, which seems like he's acknowledging that Biden did actually win. But it turns out when people started tweeting, oh my God, look what he did, Trump realized, oh my God, look what I did. And so he started saying things like this. And so this is just a mishmash of the last 2 days of his social media activity. But there are things like, I won the election. But you just admitted you didn't. And understand that I won the election, which when I screen capped it was 2 hours ago, is a slightly lower energy, lower D version of I won the election, which he did 9 hours earlier. So basically he's just waiting like a third of each day to tweet out that he still won the election, even though his court cases are getting thrown out, which we'll talk about. The recounts aren't going his way, which we've talked about. But he's still confident. He has that at this late date.
You know, Nothing says you're a loser more than saying that you won, even though you categorically and objectively lost. Like, this is if the Tampa Bay Rays were like, we won, everyone would be like, okay, that's not how we play baseball. You don't get to just say you won. And when you say you did, literally no one wants to listen to that. It's just pathetic and it's whiny. And this is ostensibly the president. And I love that he thinks that that's correcting his mistake rather than just digging himself, a bigger, sadder hole for his tears to fill it up with, he just add a little addendum tweet. We've all done it and be like, asterisk, he only won because, or I meant to put that in air quotes or whatever it is. But I love that we can just fill in his tweet with I won the election because I refuse to accept reality and because all of the court cases I presented in multiple states have completely imploded because my lawyer is drunk all the time.
And that's his best quality.
And exactly.
Yeah, you're right. We would never accept this from like a football team, but that's because when it's serious, like the outcome of a sporting event, we care about reality. When it's like fluffy nonsense, like who's gonna be our next president, it's whatever the guy we like says. That's basically how things work. But I wanna read just a couple more of these for two reasons. One, because it's fun. Two, because this is like, I'm still assuming, and I'm ready to be shown to be naive on this, that eventually he will get out of that building. But this is a sitting president refusing to accept the results of an election that was done free and fair and fully observed. This, while it can be funny, is horrifying because we don't know what comes after this. When he tweets, the radical left Democrats working with their partner, the fake news media, are trying to steal this election. We won't let them. There's a threat. What is behind that threat? What will you do to not let them steal the election from you? And when he says the most fraudulent election in history, after saying a few days ago that it was the most secure election in history, okay, so he's making pretty clear that he's not going to accept the results of it. So what happens? What happens after that? I don't know. But there was one good tweet from Ken Klippenstein who said, I remember leftists years ago saying Trump might refuse to concede and being told they were being hysterical. Exactly, because there's always those anti-lefters who are gonna be like, how dare you be worried about Donald Trump, the damage he's doing and the damage he promises to do in the future? Well, if you predicted that Donald Trump might not accept the results of an election, I don't know what more he needs to do. Aside from tanks in the streets, this is how you refuse to accept the results of an election.
Yeah, and I remember when he first won, everyone was making the same joke, which was basically, basically Donald Trump's first and America's last election. Like this is the last American election. And it was like, oh, that's such a joke. But like, come on, y'all. We knew there was a grain of truth to that. And everyone was sort of thinking that. And we all saw this moment coming. Like, I love Colbert. I am happy that he did not normalize, and nor should any of us normalize the fact that a sitting president is denying the results of the democracy that we have. But like, let's not be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about this. Like we all knew this was a very real possibility. Just set up like two governments, just a White House, build a White House in front of the current White House. I'm like, how do you, again, this is my feeling is you encase a la Simpsons movie, encase the White House in a bubble. It's a petri dish anyway. It should be sealed off from the rest of the world, and then just build a new White House.
Yeah, give him the presidential equivalent of letting your little brother go into the arcade and mash the buttons, but he doesn't actually have any quarters. That's basically what we need. Yeah, and I agree. I'm glad that they haven't normalized it. Yesterday is, season finale of John Oliver, because he's going to be off for a few months because for some reason they treat it as if his show is the Game of Thrones rather than a news show that hypothetically you could do year round. I don't get it, but anyway, he did it all about the refusal to accept the results. And I love Colbert too. I have to give it to him. His reaction to Trump's 2 Thursdays ago press conference was very heartfelt and raw. I also have to give it to him for the undeniable fact that my Trump impersonation is just an impersonation of Stephen Colbert impersonating Donald Trump. Let's be clear about that. But anyway, yeah, I hope that in 2.5 months, we look back a couple weeks into the Joe Biden presidency and say, oh good, we were being a little bit much about that. I hope that we get to that. But until we get to that, I'm not going to just assume that we get to that. And so we're gonna take these threats, which is what they are, as seriously as we feel like we need to.
Yeah, the problem is, John, and I'm of two minds about this, is because we know what happens whenever mainstream media starts to take Donald Trump really seriously, right? They give him a lot of airtime. They take every word he says as verbatim, which is mostly lies, and then he is able to do whatever he wants. I mean, I feel like this is how we got Donald Trump in the first place, is that sure, you have to treat what he says somewhat seriously, but we took his entire presidential campaign as if it were real, right? And people just kept on running to rubberneck all the ridiculous things he said. So it's like, I am of this mind of keep treating him like a sad little clown and he will go away. And also, oh my God, he could actually try to not leave. Look at the shakeups in the Department of Defense, all of this. Yeah. Time will tell, and I have absolutely every ounce of faith that the American people will take the streets non-violently, en masse. I am not so certain that the Proud Boys in Trump's camp are going to do the same.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that about the shakeups too, because look, I feel like, and again, maybe naively, maybe fatally naively, that the military is not going to prop up a Trump dictatorship. But if that was what you were trying to do, what would you do? You'd clear out the top management of the Department of Defense and replace it with people who are known for only one thing: personal loyalty to Donald Trump. What has he done? Cleared out the top level of management of the Department of Defense and replaced it with people who are only known because of their personal loyalty to Trump. He has done that. That is what they did in other countries, and in some of those countries it worked. For a few decades, they were able to keep a guy in power because they had controlled the military. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I feel like that's not possible, that there's too many levels and the generals he hasn't fired yet would stop it. But all of this does sound like the sort of thing scholars find someday. Look how placid they were in the face of this encroaching authoritarianism. And I'm just saying, all of this looks exactly like it would look if it ended with a dictator. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely, and I think that's the other thing is that, all mainstream outlets and most scholars, are like, well, in the end, democracy will prevail because it's so strong. I mean, the American democracy is super strong. What? Have you been living in the same country we have for 4 years? It's pretty weak, actually. It's a poorly put together IKEA table. It just sways and rocks, and it will fall very soon. Like, we've all been living in this democracy. It's not that good. So yes, you're absolutely right that like the idea that we're not a tin pot dictatorship, like we very easily could become that.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And over time you start to think, wait, did I not tighten these bolts enough? But no, you did. It's not you, it's the bolts, it's the table. It was set up to fail. Anyway, yeah, I agree. But we have been alluding to these legal challenges. So we're gonna proceed to those in just a minute. But before we do that, I do wanna see what's been going on with the audience. And the first super chat out the gate was from Annie, who says, how about fiery dragon for Francesca? Because she knows how to fry him and still be funny.
I love the alliteration. Thank you.
I do. Chakuseki says, lame duck L'Orange, aka the golden goose, should be put in a straitjacket after his tweets inciting violence. Will he ever be held accountable? He will not be put in a straitjacket, and I guess he's been held accountable to the extent that he ever will be with that election result. We'll see if it sticks. Fingers crossed. Wayne Sugahara says, hi, John and Frenny. Did you know that the name of the current hurricane is Iota? Is a weather service as snarky as TDR? I thought there was another one. Yeah, well, thank you. Barracuda says we need a too strong flavor named Red Dragon. Oh, I like that. That's good. That'd be a spicy brew. Let's see. Icos Hedragon says Franny the Ipecac dragon curing poisonous malaise with laughter. Happy Monday. Doesn't Ipecac make you throw up though?
It makes you puke.
I guess it purges the system. Francesca's comedy, purging America since
if you like vomiting, you will love my comedy.
Laugh till you vomit. Oh geez, okay. Over on Twitch, Obi-Wan Kenobi, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. Brandy Lou gifted 5, thank you, Brandy Lou. Copper Queen 22 gifted 1 as well, as did the Kurd Burglar. Thank you, as always, to all of you who are helping to expand the TDR community, bring a few new Dragon Whelps into the mix. ZF00130 subscribed for 3 months and then left a jank freaking out face. Thank you for that. Dobbs Merks resubscribed, as did Wolfie Harvel, Bruni, Plugi, Void Queen. He says happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to you as well. And we will get to more of these. Hold on a second. Lush says, out of the literally millions of Trump impressions, yours is my favorite, John. Please never stop reading his tweets in that voice. Thanks. Well, thank you for that. But as I said, it is just a secondary impersonation of Stephen Colbert's. And I can't help it. I've been watching him do that impersonation for years now. I can't do anything else. Anyway, okay. You ready to move on here, Francesca?
Yeah.
Okay. Donald Trump's ongoing challenges to the results of the recent election aren't exactly going well from his point of view. His campaign is withdrawing a central part of its lawsuit seeking to stop the certification of the election results in Pennsylvania, a must-win state for him, where Democrat Joe Biden beat Trump to capture the state and help win the White House. Ahead of a Tuesday hearing in the case, their campaign dropped the allegation that hundreds of thousands of mail-in and absentee ballots, almost 700,000 to be precise, were illegally processed without its representatives watching. The campaign's slimmed down lawsuit filed in federal court on Sunday maintains the aim of blocking the results from being certified, and it maintains its claim that Democratic voters were treated more favorably than Republican voters. Now, this is important because what we're seeing right here is, I think, the perfect example of what this legal strategy is and how the strategy part is not necessarily that tied in with the legal part. So in court, they had been alleging that something like 700,000 votes needed to not be counted, which is insane. And that's not just me saying that. Apparently the judge thought that too. So they're retracting it. But they're pretending that they're not, with one of their campaign spokesmen, Tim Murtaugh, saying the story is completely erroneous. Our lawsuit absolutely still make an issue of those votes. Okay, yes, you're making an issue of them, but you're not claiming that they should be retracted. And the gap there between what they're forced to actually try to do in court, when there's the threat of their lawyers being disbarred and things like that, and the way that they're describing it in public, that's a huge gap there. Very, very weak and flaccid in court, but in person, they're beating on their chest. No, we're totally still gonna win this thing, because again, they're pursuing multiple strategies, and one of them to some extent might be the legal strategies, but that is not necessarily the one that they're most interested in the future of. They have to maintain the illusion going forward that they can still win this thing, extract as much money as possible out of their base in pursuit of whatever it is that's happening next for Donald Trump and his family. But Francesca, I don't know, maybe you have a different read on it. What do you think?
I mean, he's gonna need a compound in, Russia, Philippines, Brazil, wherever he's still welcome. So yeah, look, he's gotta get the super PAC going. Gotta pretend he wants to run for president again, even though he totally doesn't want to run for president. He would honestly much rather just be an old man on Twitter. At which point, by the way, if he ever does leave office, we're just replying to him, okay, boomer, every single tweet. That's it. That is what we will do. But you see Tim Murtaugh, like he's responding to an update that says that there's so little left of the Trump federal lawsuit over the election results. There's no need for an argument session that the judge has scheduled for Tuesday. Like they're once again just denying reality, and also there are election observers when votes are counted. And
there were.
Apparently they are also from, I mean, this is, look, like everything in the Trump administration, it actually is great because we now know, like, the head of the Department of the Interior was a guy named Ryan Zinke, I think, like, right? Like, I didn't know what that even was a role. Like, now thanks to Trump, I'm like, oh, there are election observers in every single count in these state board election offices. That's awesome, good to know. Hey, way to go, democracy. So once again, thank you for educating us. This is like the Schoolhouse Rocks of government that we've really needed. In fact, I hope they redo Schoolhouse Rocks just with different Trump blunders and then explain how that's an actual thing. Yay.
Yeah. And to that point about the observers, Trump is still tweeting as of this morning that they didn't have the observers. His campaign already admitted in court that they did like a week and a half ago. And that's important because if you are one of those people watching this who has family members or friends that have been talking about Dominion or Sharpies, or I don't even know what the new conspiracy theories are, and you're wondering, how do I get my loved one to no longer believe this BS? They still believe that there weren't observers when the Trump campaign in court admitted that there were. So the answer is you can't. They will accept whatever they want to accept, whatever they're told to accept, because they are desperately clinging onto a world where Donald Trump will still be president. A world that his lawyers don't seem to be clinging to all that closely anymore. Now there is another case I want to give you a little bit of information about. So let's see, in terms of some of the preferential treatment, the lawsuit charges that Democratic heavy counties violated the law by identifying mail-in ballots before election day that had defects, such as lacking an inner secrecy envelope or lacking a voter's signature on the outside envelope so that the voter could fix it and ensure that the vote would count, called curing. The lawsuit says that Republican heavy counties followed the law and did not provide a notice and cure process, disenfranchising many. Okay, but do you get what's happening here? So they made the process for mail-in ballots so obstacle prone and complicated that some people just trying to do their best could make mistakes. Some election officials thought, well, if their vote doesn't count, that's a bad thing because we live in a democracy, so we're gonna give them an opportunity to make their ballot count. Their ballot that was cast before election day and all of that just had some sort of technicality that needed to be fixed. The Republican heavy counties decided we don't want that to happen because screw mail-in ballots. And they've decided, so they disenfranchised some, which I guess hurts them. And they're saying that allowing the curing benefits Democrats because presumably Democrats are more likely to vote by mail. But again, that's only a result we got because you guys demonized mail-in ballots. If you cared about your voters and indeed all voters voting in a democracy, none of this would be a problem. And none of it is going to be a problem for the results because this isn't going to result in votes being thrown out. But think about this, if you weren't so focused on wringing the neck of democracy, you might have had a chance to get a few more votes. Maybe the 15,000 you need in Georgia, for instance, to lead to you winning at least that state, if not the Electoral College.
Yeah, I mean, this is the heart of all of these lawsuits is you can't have it both ways. You just can't have it both ways. You can't say stop the count, ooh, start the count. Okay, we need actual observers on this count. Oh, there were observers. Well, I don't know, burn ballots. Like, what do you? And you can't have a party that has been, because of course, let's be real, it's beyond Trump. It is on down the line on all the, the Republican state legislatures that have fallen in line and obeyed orders to try and suppress as much of the vote as possible. And including mail-in ballots and including their own voters, and then suddenly be like, wait, our voters are suppressed. Like, you did that, dummy. So yes, this is the whole thing. You can't have it both ways. And can we just say, it is so perfect that Trump lost by not the exact, but close margins to the way that Hillary Clinton lost. I think that is so wonderful because
I agree.
The Democrats in 2016, if they could have mounted any kind of challenge, they probably would have, right? Let's hope they would have mounted a challenge if it had come down to a certain state or that something looked really fishy. And sadly, And maybe in a good way, good for our democracy. It didn't. Nothing was fishy. She lost, and she lost pretty handily, right? She won the popular vote. But Trump is losing on both of those counts, and it is just so, sit in that loss, buddy. Look at it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened to Hillary 4 years ago.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, and while he's dragging it out, again, it's not that he's not doing that for some purpose that's benefiting him. He's raising money and whatever, setting up Trump TV, running on blah blah blah, whatever other nightmare we'll someday have to cover and deal with. But also the dragging it out. In the first story we talked about the constant declaring, no, I actually won. He's also drawing out how insane he looks, how sad and pathetic he looks. And it's not just us that thinks that. It's not just us. It's not just lefties that are laughing at him. Judges are laughing at him. So let's go through this. We have when Republican lawyers in Nevada complained their observers weren't close enough, if they could not hear everything that poll workers were saying, US District Judge Andrew Gordon pushed back saying, at what point does this get ridiculous? And then ruled against the Republicans. And obviously, because it isn't about them saying our poll workers were 23 feet away rather than 18, because if they'd been 18, they'd been saying they would be saying they should have been 12. It's not about that. It's not about this succeeding and getting rid of those ballots. They know they don't have a Trump's chance in hell of winning that. But it's about dragging it out. And as long as there are these court cases going, Kayleigh McEnany can go on Fox News and Trump can tweet about it, and Fox News can run segments about it that they'll immediately have to either retract or ignore going forward when the claims are thrown out and the people admit that Project Veritas paid them to lie and all that. It seems like something is happening, and that's what the QAnon people need. That's what the really dejected Trump cultists need. They need to feel like something is happening, like there's still a chance. And they're all, again, it's like we said a week ago, they're just riding that high and just trying to stretch out the little bit of their supply they got left.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you mentioned Trump TV, and I think that's a very, very real possibility. But if you're gonna grift, and if your whole life has been a grift, you need this. You need to maintain that lie so that your followers, look, he would have followers no matter what. He could say, we lost, we're coming back. He could take it like a man, and I whatever, masculinity is a prison and made up, but you know what I'm saying. Take it like an adult, right? But he doesn't, and you're absolutely right, because his base is so far gone, it's so fringe, and actually pretty stupidly, because we know that those 70 million people, I wish it was 70,000, 70 million people who voted for him, they're not crazy, sadly. A lot of them might just be racist. A lot of them might just think that it's okay for a president to behave in the way Trump does. But I don't believe that 70 million people are Q followers. So there absolutely is a reason to say you can continue this brand and still concede, but no, he wants it to be the craziest and most dangerous version of his brand, which just says we were wronged. Ergo, pretty much anything is justified, whether violence, whether, whatever is to come, all that is justified. And especially it's justified for me to build my probably, let's be real, YouTube empire. Because know they're gonna take that money.
And to that point, that's a great segue into our next section, actually. So this is gonna be fun. This is about the right-wing media wars to come. Fox News definitely hasn't liked how common Fox News sucks chants have become, whether it's outside of a ballot counting facility or indeed at the Million MAGA March, which history will remember as the 10 to 13,000 MAGA March. Here's video from this weekend. Okay, so I mean that's just amazing, because Fox News, outside of Chris Wallace, has been their teeth have been embedded an inch deep into Trump's boots, and still it's not enough to please these people. And you know how I know that? I'm not just saying that. Take a look at how they're advertising. So here is a little promo news bumper thing that they played, and get a load of what they want to reassure their audience of.
Fox News, the voices America trusts.
These legal efforts are critical.
There are apparent irregularities.
The media mob and the Democrats, they lied.
Speaking up for you and the issues that matter most to the people.
They thought there would be a blue wave. Not the case.
You're going to see something even bigger than Trump in 2022 and 2024.
The truth does need to come out.
Can we speak freely again? Can we have America back?
We, the people, deserve better.
Fox News, America is watching.
Can we speak freely again? Can we have our country again? Can we have our audience again? Come on, guys, stop being mean to us. No, seriously, we believe all of the crazy stuff you believe. Dominion, sure, you wanna see another shadow hand puppet? We can bring those on. Whatever crazy thing you believe, we've got people who are just as crazy. That's what I got out of that promo.
Absolutely. Hey America, do you have a Trump flag? Why don't you bend over and I will give you a rim job right now. I am so sorry, but that's exactly what that was. That was a rim job to the most craziest among you. Yes, it tastes good. Like, this is not okay. What are you doing?
I agree,
what are you
this is
doing?
not okay.
What do you do? Why are they even doing? People are still gonna watch them.
They must be worried. I don't know. I'm not Donald Trump. I don't live my life tracking the ratings every day for networks I'm not on. Are they down? I don't know. That ad to me implies that somebody is nervous. It might not be the talent necessarily, quote unquote. It might just be their manager. It might be their ad set. I don't know. But they're projecting to me that they're worried.
But like, you just said that, and we know when advertisers have jumped ship, major advertisers have jumped ship, it's because Fox News is saying some racist BS, right? Yeah. Like, so they're not worried when that happens. But then when people are like, Fox News sucks, that like freaks them out. I mean, it is also just like so painful because as someone on the left, as someone who, we've criticized mainstream media all the time, right? And you think they ever take our critiques to heart? No, never. They don't want us at all. But one little chant and this major most watched network capitulates and just rolls out the red carpet for these nut jobs. Meanwhile, we crazies on the left want to survive the climate apocalypse. Yeah. Sorry, like, exactly. Oh, it's so sad. It's just so sad to me.
It is. And what's really amazing about it is that in the same way that like, Donald Trump or his son will always be like, CNN sucks, New York Times sucks, Washington Post is fake. And I will demonstrate it by this article. I'm linking to the Washington Post here. Like, it's always sort of funny how they use the thing they're mocking.
Right.
So these right wingers who are, they're mad that like, there's like the back end, just the little back end of some of these Fox hosts' tongue isn't pressed against the boot. They're gonna jump ship from Fox. Meanwhile, YouTube, which is currently allowing false conspiracy theories about the election to run rampant, videos racking up millions of views about it, about 40% feature clips from Fox News.
Jeez.
So like they're using it to show that this thing is rigged and then complaining that Fox isn't saying enough that it was rigged. Now there's another twist to this though, because I don't have the numbers. I can't say how badly Fox is bleeding, but from the activity of one of their sharks in the ocean, it seems like they smell blood. Take a look at this little recent segment from OANN.
You're looking at the latest and most up-to-date tally of electoral votes in the 2020 presidential race. We here at One American News are the only ones providing truthful, accurate numbers, as we believe President Trump, as you can see, still has a chance of winning.
As you can see from this map that we designed in Windows Paint in 1994. Seriously, where is your graphics package coming from? What font is that? Anyway, but look at that. They're calling states, like for instance, Brian Toshman on Twitter acknowledged that they called North Carolina for Trump, where he has a 75,000 vote lead, but they're pretending that Michigan is undecided when Biden has a 115,000 vote lead. Right. I mean, the whole thing is absurd, but they're saying we're the only ones telling you the truth. Wink, wink. Fox is a bunch of traitors, and they've turned against, Q or whatever.
I don't even ever want to talk about OANN. Honestly, I don't need to, like, if you're gonna lie to me and have lots of propaganda, just like zhuzh it up a bit, get more money. They probably will, I have no doubt. But like, honestly, trash. I don't, like, let's just not, like, whenever they say something, let's just not.
Yeah.
Let's not. I mean, this is funny, but I really hope that they don't become more relevant.
I hope so too. Okay, so I'm not gonna make you talk about OANN. I'm gonna for just one more second, but I will say, Fox and apparently OAN do a thing that will seem a little bit foreign, perhaps certainly to me, maybe to Francesca too, and that is doing a show for an audience of one. Like if I do a video, I don't expect that Bernie Sanders is going to watch it. If I do a video, I don't expect the AOC is gonna watch it. Do I hope? Sure, but I don't expect it. They expect it though. And there's a reason, it's because it works. So they do segments like that on OAN, and the president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, says, try watching OANN, really great. Because he saw that and he liked it. They're pretending the thing he wants them to pretend, that he still has a chance when he doesn't. And if they will, pluck out their own eyeballs with tweezers and stick their head in the sand, he will reward them for that thing that somehow passes for loyalty.
I mean, yes, and the sad thing is that John, I don't know what's gonna happen, but what I will say that the Democrats will absolutely pretend that this kind of sludge doesn't exist. They'll do what I just said, which is like, let's not pay attention to them. But we actually kind of do need to. And especially when it comes to places like YouTube, I think it is a domain that we have fought for, which I think is really important, that TYT has fought for and done incredibly well. And I think more and more having progressive news alternatives on YouTube is really, really critical. But you can't go forward having 40%, or having however many, hundreds of thousands of videos that are just about lies,
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe they have the exact same warnings that Twitter's been putting up. Maybe they are, grayed out, whatever it is. You got to say you're 18 or older, maybe. Which we all do. Like whatever. What are the precautions going forward to prevent some of these completely fake news outlets from running rampant as we have seen they have been and got Trump and others elected?
Yeah, I don't know going forward, but I do know that Democratic leadership, probably including Joe Biden, they either don't understand or don't acknowledge the threat inherent in a lot of this stuff. They are still living in, I dream that they're living in the 90s. I fear that they're living in the 80s or maybe the 70s, but they don't get the modern threats that we face. They just don't get it. Okay, now there is other news not related to OAN that we are going to talk about, and so we'll get to that in just a minute. Really fast though, few comments from the audience. Banshee Queen says, "What's up with Trump's crazed midnight tweet from last night? Guess he didn't care for the hashtag Trump conceded trending all yesterday. Very stable genius files for bankruptcy, not so great a businessman." Well, Banshee Queen, thank you. Probably referring to the title. That is a reference to The Office, where he thinks that just yelling something makes it true. Yelling you won the election doesn't make it so. But thank you. Let's see. Seb's Veg Meat says 100% telecommuting right now due to COVID. The 10 commute I have now far beats the 50-mile commute. Oh, geez. Yeah, I have a friend who he works at a university and it's an hour-and-a-half drive each way, and he's been doing it for years now. And I don't know why you would set that up for yourself. I don't get it. Oof. Anyway, Ashley D says, usually don't catch TDR live, but I had a dream that John was interviewing Trump on the show and it ended with him crying. Random, but had to tell you. Wait, Ashley, you're not clear which of us is crying. Was I crying? Is it because like he handed me a chart and it just broke my brain how stupid it was?
No, I feel like Trump was crying. That's how I interpreted that. And yeah, obviously, I don't think that he's, no, you made him cry, John.
I hope so. I don't know exactly what dreams I had last night, but I do know that my wife said that she didn't get much sleep, in part because we're about to have our first session of a Dungeons and Dragons campaign tonight, and apparently all through the night I was talking about my character. I have no memory of this. That's who I am, I guess. I talk about fake dragon girls. I don't know. Anyway, Victor says, Francesca. That's the whole super chat. It's just Francesca. Stephanie Smith says, Stony Dragon reporting from Portland, Oregon. Love John and Franny.
I like how you read that. Can I just say I had a dream about Conan O'Brien and that he asked me to make him a cup of coffee. I was like, I want to make a cup of coffee. And I was like, do you want one? He was like, yeah. And then I forgot that he didn't want any cream in it. And then I messed up the coffee and I got really
And he freaked out.
No, I didn't even try to give it to him. I just couldn't get a better cup of coffee. And I was really sad. These are my dreams. Just making Conan a cup of coffee.
That would be fun. I would guess you have a 25% chance of having met Conan O'Brien. Have you met Conan O'Brien?
I haven't, but when he met me in the dream, he was like, did we sleep together? And I was like, no, but we can.
I think when you meet him, oh my God, there's a 25% chance that he in real life will say that as his opening comment.
Probably.
Randy says, Fiorentini Iadarola 2024. We should probably start setting up some sort of committee for that. And finally, Gary Does Stuff says, Tywin Lannister to Joffrey, quote, if you have to say you're the king, then you're not the king. Also, dibs on Bearded Dragon, I'll see myself out. I like it, you can have it. But yeah, that's true. Saying, I won the election, if you have to scream it, clearly it's not obvious. Anyway, okay, with that, let's turn now to far darker news as we go one day closer to the dark winter that's coming. If you want to know how the pandemic is going in America, all you need to know is that America had more than 1 million reported cases in less than 6 days. Let's pause for a second on that. Didn't even take a week for 1 million new cases. And that is, I think, by any standard, an insane failure. But imagine if in those first days where we locked down and everybody was so terrified and they're going and stockpiling toilet paper, if you had told them that like 8 months later, we're going to have failed so bad that we're having 1 million new cases a week, even after all of this time, after all of these deaths, after all of these cases. Just amazing. Take a look, NBC News did a great listing of each day in November and look at the rise in cases there. 76,000 on the first was an insane number, and we're having double that. And in fact, on Sunday, which is always the lowest day, sometimes Monday, but Sunday is pretty low too. We had 139,000 cases. We had 583 deaths reported on a Sunday when many states don't even report. Still, on the lowest day, we had 583 deaths. And we have more on this, but really fast. I know that this isn't a new story, Francesca. How many times have we entered into a Monday with bad news like this? But this is just terrible. I mean, this is the most cases we've had this entire time.
Yeah, it is seriously frightening. And I without trying to, reduce your own anxiety and get a good night's sleep however you can, we should still be very concerned and take so many precautions. Look, Thanksgiving is coming up. I know people are going to see their family members. Please try not to make that either a long visit or a visit with many family members. Make sure you test and everyone tests. And I know that's hard to get people to test, but if they won't test, then you wear masks inside. Sorry, it's weird, but you're gonna do it. Or you have an outdoor heater, you got a patio, cool, that's even better. But no, this is what you have to do to keep your loved ones alive and safe. And if you need to skip it, you skip it, right? I know a lot of folks' families are a plane ride away. Maybe you should just skip it. And that is hard because we're in this moment where we want to be close to one another. We're suffering because we aren't close to one another. So it's just the sacrifice we have to keep making, thinking of our healthcare workers, thinking of the people who've died, thinking about how we want our family members to not die. Everyone knows someone at this point and will continue to know people. So, we come off the back of talking about all of these senseless and ridiculous lawsuits that the Trump administration is pursuing. And you just imagine if he turned that energy into actually trying to save people's lives. And it makes you just even more furious and angry. But it's pathetic. This is so pathetic that that we're not doing this. And also, last thing, it makes a case for having a health body that is completely separate from the government. Yes, there would have to be some kind of in working in tandem. But what if we had like kind of, like what if the CDC was more independent? What if we didn't have to politicize anything? Because this is not gonna be the last time that we go through this, sadly.
Yeah, no, it probably won't be. It won't be. But no, Trump isn't gonna change. Fauci said he hasn't been in one of the meetings in months. Oh, by the way, they're blocking the pandemic coordinating team from talking with Biden's transition team. They're stopping that from happening because it doesn't matter to them. They don't care, and they don't care if more people die. And the way I think about it now, especially with, we're gonna get to the vaccine in just a few. Like they apparently have developed vaccines that are relatively effective with relatively low incidence of side effects. And those will come at some point. We don't know exactly when, we don't know when regular people will be able to get them, but they are coming. And it makes me think of like, beyond the last 2 decades, when you go back, there would be wars and lots of people would die in the wars. And at some point, the war would end. Some two elites would get together in a room and they'd end it. And because of the way communication worked, there would be days or weeks before some people in some battlefields found out about it, and they would still be fighting and dying needlessly because the war doesn't even exist anymore. We know that there's a vaccine. The question is, how many more people will die between now and when we actually get it? How many more people? Anybody watching this, do you want to get sick and deal with, long-term organ failure? Do you want to potentially give it to one of your family members? Do you want to lose a friend or family member needlessly when we know that the effective cure is coming if we just are a little bit patient? And if we just unfortunately treat Thanksgiving like we treated Halloween and like we treated the 4th of July, it'll be okay. Yes, it sucks to feed 1 year to this monster, but there will be other years if we're responsible. If we're not, then maybe there's no more Thanksgivings for us. Maybe our grandma doesn't get to do another Christmas. And so that's the question that everybody is gonna have to face. It would be great to do a Thanksgiving in person and get to experience all the stress of setting that up and people flying in and getting in fights about politics. It would be great to have that horrible experience, but maybe not worth it. Maybe not worth it.
Yeah.
You want some other stuff that's sad? Let's transition to this now. I saw this thread from someone working COVID cases that really just breaks my heart. It's from Jody During, who said, I have a night off from the hospital. As I'm on my couch with my dog, I can't help but think of the COVID patients the last few days. The ones that stick out are those who still don't believe the virus is real. The ones who scream at you for a magic medicine and that Joe Biden is going to ruin the USA, all while grasping for air on 100% Vapotherm. They tell you that there must be another reason they're sick. They call you names and ask why you have to wear all that stuff because they don't have COVID because it's not real. Yes, this really happens. And I can't stop thinking about it. These people really think that this isn't going to happen to them. And then they stop yelling at you when they get intubated. It's like an effing horror movie that never ends. There's no credits that roll. You just go back and do it all over again. I stupidly thought that once the people get it, they open their eyes and realize it's true. But why would that be the case? They've been inoculated, not against the virus, but against acknowledging that the pandemic is real. And so they go into their last days and indeed they die believing that the thing killing them is a hoax by CNN or China or Bill Gates or whatever. And these doctors have to see it and they have to watch this cycle play out every single day.
Someone should lay body bags at the footsteps of Fox News and the White House because this is on them. This is on OANN. This is on all of the grifters, the conspiracy theorists, the people who know better, the people who are given information on a daily about why this and how this virus is real. All of these bodies are at Donald Trump's feet. All of these bodies are at Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity's feet.
Yep.
I swear to God, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see someone, you want to get mad at that person. You want to say kind of like, well, you get what you asked for, etc. But then you realize that they have been fed poison. I mean, it's not just the actual coronavirus, but just mental and informational poison for so long, even when the president who had COVID, who might still be contagious, who's infected 130 Secret Service members, who has infected so many people in the White House. Like, even he was denying it as he got it. Yep. And absolutely that person lying there is like, yeah, give me the magic medicine because it helped the president. No, buddy, that's not for you. You're a casualty in this war on truth, and that's what it is. That's what you get. You don't get it. You don't get health care. You think this president's got a plan for health care? No. So it is, if you can't get through to these people, you got to stay away. You really have to keep your distance from them.
I agree. All of these people, if they're on a ventilator denying that it exists, you think they were wearing a mask, you think they were protecting their family members. It's sad that they're dying because, as you said, they've been poisoned by these murderous grifters in the right-wing media. But they also spread it to other people, undoubtedly, and got them sick. And those people will suffer with it for the rest of their life, assuming the rest of their life hasn't already ended. Yeah, I guess, if we're too specific, maybe we'll get in trouble. I had early on, I wrote an op-ed for The Hill, the only op-ed I've ever written for The Hill that they didn't publish, laying out how irresponsible Fox News is being and how it's gonna get people killed. Yeah. And they wouldn't publish it, and that was like 2 months into the pandemic, and it has been proven true a couple 100,000 times over. Yes. They knew what they were doing when they spread this misinformation, and they will never suffer any liability for it. There will never be any consequences for Laura or Sean or Tucker, but they know what they did, and I'm not going to forget at the very least.
Yeah.
Now, I want to add just a little bit more on one graphic, and every once in a while I will say that this is the saddest or most shocking graphic that I've read. This one is up there with about the saddest thing that I've ever heard, and it has to do with the cost of this misinformation, people not being responsible. I want to talk about a party. Only 55 people attended a party on August 7th at the Big Moose Inn in Millinocket, but one of those guests arrived with a coronavirus infection. Over the next 38 days, the virus spread to 176 other people. 7 of them died. None of the victims who lost their lives had attended the party. So someone went to the party and began spreading COVID, and it spread and it killed a handful of people who hadn't even been there.
Yeah.
That is how this works. This pandemic, we showed you those numbers of cases or whatever. All those numbers are thousands of those parties. Of people not caring or thinking they're immune or thinking I'm being kind of responsible, and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. You can't get to numbers like that without thousands of people thinking that the rules don't apply to them. And people die, and all too often, and it sort of proves that karma doesn't exist. It's not just those people, or not even those people who actually die. It's people who were being responsible in the end who die.
And this is, back to YouTube. I like that this thread is continuing here. Because look, when we've always been told if the government doesn't step in, private corporations do. Let's put all of our energy and faith into the private corporations, these entities. They're motivated by goodwill, and the invisible hand of the market will deliver what the people need. Okay, well, guess what? Every single pre-roll ad on YouTube should be bought by YouTube about COVID. That's it. That is it. If the government hasn't purchased ads on these videos, it should be YouTube itself that is putting out COVID information, correct COVID information.
That's a good point.
And explaining to people. Instead, no, we got the Epoch Times with a corny dude who's just like, guess what? I have the truth. Just seriously though, the emergency broadcasting service, all of these things, even we just better need to utilize the airwaves and the internet for spreading actual true information. Whose job is that if the government has abdicated their role?
Yeah, they couldn't do that for one day. Say, you know what? We're not running other people's ads. We're running our own ads, and it's not just going to be on COVID misinformation. It's going to be on literally every video, and we're going to lose 1/365th of our advertising revenue for YouTube, and it might save some lives. That's a great idea. They should 100% do that. Anyway, this whole thing is so sad. The people going to their deaths, not believing it, spreading it. The people dying who, they saw someone who thought going to a party was a good idea. This has been so depressing. Let's turn very briefly, a little bit of good news on the pandemic, and that is that as of this morning, one of the vaccines that's being worked on, the Moderna vaccine, has apparently been shown to be 94.5% effective against the coronavirus, according to early data released by the company just today, making it the second vaccine in the US to have a very high success rate. Dr. Anthony Fauci replied to that news saying these are obviously very exciting results. It's just as good as it gets. 94.5% is truly outstanding. The company says its vaccine did not have any serious side effects. A small percentage of those who received it experienced symptoms such as body aches and headaches as well. This is all information about the side effects and the success rate coming from the company, so just bear that in mind, and there will be more testing and all of that. But in addition to the Moderna one, last week Pfizer announced that early data shows its vaccine is more than 90% effective against the disease, which obviously either of those or both of those being available would be game changers. But we also need a lot more information, and it's going to take literally forever for it to be made available.
And it should be free, and it shouldn't gouge the American taxpayer. Yes, and those are things that early on Bernie Sanders was calling for. That still needs to be the case. I mean, let's be real, these are people who've gouged us for regular meds for many decades now. So hey, they kind of owe us. But yeah, 94.5, that's great. And the side effects, those are side effects that you can get from a flu shot as well. So
yeah,
this is good news for sure.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? I don't know why I would even give him any credit. I saw Trump tweeted something about like, remember this was under my watch. And I immediately fact checked it because I remembered that the other vaccine, he'd been bragging about some vaccine development, and it was one that wasn't in the Operation Warp Speed. Like he had nothing to do with it, whatever.
Right.
In this one, they apparently did give them like $1 billion. So that's good. Look, one thing that he probably had absolutely nothing to do with that somebody on the team suggested, good. That might have helped, maybe. And now we need to actually get it. And that same credit that I just gave him, let me take it back, because again, this is a guy who cares so little about this that he's not going to any of the meetings. He doesn't talk about the coronavirus anymore, really. And he has blocked the team that's working on the coronavirus in the government from coordinating with Joe Biden, because of course he cares more about pretending he won the election than your grandma living or dying.
Yeah.
Cannot believe that it is mid-November and it's worse now than it was. Just can't believe it. Anyway, we do have a couple more stories. So I'm just gonna read a few quick super chats. We do have a fun stuff to end the show. A little bit dark. AN sent in a super chat saying, I work from home and haven't left my house much since the pandemic started. I've been sick for 2 weeks because the people in my boyfriend's office won't consistently wear masks. His boss tested positive. My first test was negative, going for number 2 today. Ooh. Well, Ann, I hope that that one turns out the way you want, obviously. Yeah, this has been presented as a thing that is about personal choice, and it's not, because that's not how viruses work.
Yeah.
Anyway, Charles Massey sent in a super chat saying the best thing about Franny Mondays is her saying sex stuff and watching John cringe. Blue Heart Box says, would love to put Atlas in charge of field work in Michigan. Perhaps his tune would change if it were his personal health on the line. Yeah, exactly. Scott Atlas, I wouldn't necessarily want him working on these COVID patients because, again, remember, he doesn't know anything about this part of medicine, but it probably would change his mind a little bit. Bernie the Kiwi Bird says, calling the Trump fans sheep is highly inaccurate. I have never seen sheep so willing to get fleeced. Also, Dragon Squad would have gobbled them up. Seriously, want Dragon Squad decals for my laptop.
Ooh.
We need decals.
Definitely need decals.
We need decals. That's a great idea. Okay, let's see. Raleigh Jones says, I just finished 12-episode podcast on Manson after listening to one on Heaven's Gate. They thought aliens were in the tail of the comet. It is insane what a fake self-obsessed messiah can convince people. 100% MAGA is a cult. Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Over on Twitch, Sean Burby has gifted a sub. Thank you for that. Fairy Cat has subscribed for her 6-month. I guess it could be a he. I don't know why I assumed that. I apologize. But says stoked on 6 months of supporting the progressive message here on TYT. Much love to y'all. Thank you, Fairy Cat. Appreciate that. John's Venn diagram of desire has gifted subs as well. Jin resubscribed and said, I'm new. Welcome. Trimu Butiki gifted a sub as well. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. Cypher Shadow Dragon says, what brings Dems and reps together? Fox sucks. That's true. That's fun. Let's see. Chase Snake says, John, D&D is so 2012. Star Wars FSG, I'll bet you would like it. I'm familiar with other RPGs. This is the one the DM suggested, but thank you. Oren B says, John should do a TYT D&D one shot. I know we've talked about that before. That would be fun. It seems like it'd be difficult to get Jank to role play as like a dwarf barbarian though.
Oh,
anyway.
But so close. He's already just so close to that.
He's getting there, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine him pretending to be an elf. I just don't see it happening. Maybe Anna, maybe. Ben would just sit there mocking me the whole time. He wouldn't even be at the table. He'd be sitting on the other side of the room yelling that we're nerds. Anyway, okay, with that, let's go to a little bit more news. I think we can get through both of these if we are relatively efficient. So let's launch into it. Over the last few days, the new congressional orientation has begun, and that's led to a lot of great photos and everything, but it's also led to a little bit of just learning stuff about the people that rule us that is deeply depressing. And this lesson is brought to us via Cori Bush. So Cori Bush had tweeted things like this picture saying change does not come from this place unless we bring it here ourselves. We're bringing change to the 117th Congress. It's an awesome photo, a reminder that like after working as an activist, she's made it. That is awesome, and she's remembering the issues that brought her there with Breonna Taylor's name on her mask there. Unfortunately, not everybody got that message because she later tweeted, it's day one, so I'm wearing my Breonna Taylor mask. A few of my Republican colleagues have called me Breonna, assuming that's my name. It hurts, but I'm glad they'll come to know her name and story because of my presence here, which is getting me mildly choked up just a little bit. Breonna must be central to our work in Congress. So you all know this story, it's from a couple of days ago, but there was literally no way we were not gonna do it on the show. Republican congressmen thought she was Breonna Taylor because they also apparently think that people put their own name on their mask. They don't recognize that name at the tail end of a year where there have been countless thousands of protests about her, news coverage about her and what happened to her, updates on the trials about what happened to her and the injustice continuing. They, in late November, thought, oh, you're Breonna Taylor. Okay, cool, welcome to Congress. How much does that say? Getting that wrong, making that mistake, it tells you so much about these people.
Yeah, and also tells you so much about Cori Bush that instead of, obviously that's enraging and hurtful and kind of racist and ridiculous, that she was like, it hurts, but I know that I'm informing my colleagues about this case and who Breonna Taylor was and how she died. Like, that is such an example of rising above these hurtful moments, and the fact that progressives in Congress are asked to rise above so much all of the time. I mean, this is one of, sadly, I think many examples going forward that the incoming Congress people who are part of the squad, a lot of them who are black, like Mondaire Jones and Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, they're gonna be facing a lot of this kind of, subtle, talk about microaggressions, right? Like racism, overt racism. We know that the first two Muslim Congress people, female Congress people, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, still face an incredible amount of Islamophobia that's only going to continue. But yeah, it's ridiculous you wouldn't have heard her name at this point. I wonder if like she had worn the name George Floyd, if they'd be like, hey George, what's up? So yes, that's how much of a non-reality, that's how unresponsive. And I'm sure some of those Republicans might have been from states where there have been these major incidents, and they have African-American constituents among them, so who definitely know her name.
Yep. So if you've been wondering, were they listening? No, they were not listening. This is how you get no change when roughly half of our elected representatives are so checked out that they don't even know the small handful of names that have created and sustained the biggest social movement of literally our entire lives.
Yeah.
Deeply depressing and deeply racist. If I had come in with a mask that said Ahmaud Arbery, they wouldn't assume that was my name. They did it because she's black, and they just assumed, that's probably her. They don't care. They don't care. Anyway, just a couple more graphics. She tweeted, "I am Breonna Taylor. As far as I could be a black woman murdered in my bed tonight, but I am not Breonna Taylor. She was murdered and still has not received the justice she deserves." It's just, God, it just kills you how little our elected representatives care about what's going on. Get rid of all of them, and it's so hard, and it really does feel sometimes like we're backtracking. Like for every photo like this of, there you got Jamal Bowman, Senator Nikema Williams joining her there. It's awesome and it's inspirational. Then you also have things like this. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying our first session of new member orientation covered COVID in Congress. Masks, masks, masks. I proudly told my freshman class that masks are oppressive. In Georgia, we work out, shop, go to restaurants, go to work, and school without masks. My body, my choice. So I'm sure that she was proud when she said it. Proudly ignorant, that's America. Proudly stupid. Proudly risking your own life and the lives of people around you. So proud of your ignorance, your willful ignorance. So you have people like Cori Bush facing this, at the very least, placid, subtle, uninterested racism. And then we also have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people who believe that Cori Bush, because she's a Democrat, is a satanic pedophile. And we all know that about her. We know that she's anti-Semitic and xenophobic and all that. All those videos are freely available, and Republicans just voted her in. And so for every Jamal Bowman, maybe you get a Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's America, effectively.
Absolutely. Also, like, how much do you expect to get done in your first session if no one will come anywhere near you because you refuse to wear a mask? Like, cool story, like it's so funny. She's like, I told my freshman class that masks are oppressive. Like, first of all, for those of you who remember college, there was always that one girl who was like, well, I was reading in Vogue that, and you're like, we're in a Middle East studies class, girl. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is like Marjorie Taylor Greene is that woman who's just like, no one ever told her she was wrong. And here we go, and the other thing, she tweeted a video of her working out in her hotel room as like a way to show off that she like does CrossFit. And she was like, because DC gyms are closed. They're not closed apparently, but you do have to wear a mask, which she won't do. This is the kind of person who's going to get so many people sick. This is the kind of person who deserves body bags, at her doorstep, because she will absolutely kill people.
And as a continuing demonstration of how her brain is slightly smooth, she was complaining about the fact that she couldn't work out in DC, even though, as you say, she could go to the gyms. She's just choosing not to because retweets are more important than just living your life the way you say you want to. But also, the video is her working out and doing a workout in a room. Evidence that you can work out at home. It seems to be working for you. Look at that. You're so proud of that workout. You're sharing it to the world. But some people will like it. Some people just want a video like that. I remember your tweet, Franny. Anyway, okay. God, it's so sad. Anyway, Cori Bush, thankfully she's on the inside. Hopefully she can get great things done. Okay. Hold on, I just saw a comment on Twitch. Brother Mucker says, just notice Franny and John don't have totally Americanized accents, very neutral. What does Brother Mucker mean?
We have a California accent. It doesn't sound like anything. We are perfect.
I'm from Connecticut. I think of Connecticut as just what speech is, and everything else just moves off of that in some direction. I don't know. And maybe
wait, what's the liquid you put in cereal?
Milk?
Yeah, see? Normal.
What were you worried I was gonna say?
Milk.
That's crazy. Guarantee Marjorie Taylor Greene says it that way.
She definitely does.
Second Flight says, I have a British accent. No, I don't. I wish I did. Someone tells me to say water. I say water because it's water. Anyway, but before you said that, Spice Girl said malk and Rouse said milk. Anyway, okay, we've got one other story, and we need a new word for the funny thing where we get to laugh at right wingers and how backwards they are, but it's not funny because like theoretically a lot of people agree with them. But anyway, we have that. You know what you should be worried about today? One of the most important issues facing America, what sort of garment Harry Styles wraps his lower body in, at least according to Candace Owens, who responded to the fact that he had been on the cover of a magazine wearing something like a dress by saying, there is no society that can survive without strong men. The East knows this. In the West, the steady feminization of our men at the same time that Marxism is being taught to our children is not a coincidence. It is an outright attack. Bring back manly men. So what sent her into this downward spiral? This photo of Harry Styles. So look, if the news didn't demand it of me, I would never talk about Harry Styles. I don't care about Harry Styles. He had a pretty good episode of SNL. I've never listened to any of his music. I'm gonna guess that a lot of women probably look at that photo and think, not bad, if I had to guess. But that right there, that's the downfall of society. Bring back manly men like Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson. Bring them back. We can't survive without. But he's not even American, I don't think. Isn't he from the UK? Like, we got our own things to worry about. You know, people are dying of COVID. They don't have health insurance, buried student loan debt. The economy's not doing so well. But we should worry about Harry Styles. We have more, Francesca, including some other takes from right wingers. But what do you think about Candace Owens' fashion critiques there?
I mean, look, man, you got a bunch of Proud Boys who can't wear big boy pants marching through the streets of DC, aggressing on anyone they come across with. They're all manly men. They got AR-15s, right? Isn't this what we're supposed to celebrate? Just unmitigated violence and toxic masculinity. It is so sad where the BS myth of manly men has gotten us. Now about this photo. Notice the only thing that feels effeminate, the only thing is that it's a big jacket, a like trendy, cool jacket that someone decided to just drape in a V. That's it. That's really all it is. If he had pulled it all the way up to his neck and exposed his clearly amazing body, it would have been fine. You're triggered by an angle, straight up. That's it.
No, look, for Annie. So look, there are other photos of him where he's in something that's much more clearly a dress or whatever. But again, like, who cares? Who cares? You're right. That outfit, like, I have a feeling he's draping it off himself because he likes his body. You know, some guys are blessed with their bodies. Harry Styles, Donald Trump. Some of them just got it, you know, and they want to flaunt it, and so he's flaunting it.
Yeah, but this is the other thing though, and this is, I think, look, when it comes to gender nonconformity and really imploding the gender binary, which we know triggers the right like crazy. This is the stuff. Like, this is what they go for, and that's really what Harry Styles like meant to do. You know, it's like, yeah, get triggered, freak out because I'm wearing a dress. Do you know? Does it matter whether my sexuality, whether I like men or women? No. Does my gender matter? No. And I think this is this generational divide that, like, man, even when I was in school, we didn't have that kind of like understanding or openness, but I think young Zoomers truly do. That your presentation of your sexuality and your gender have nothing to do with one another. Your presentation of whatever you want to wear, it's like more power to you. If you can pull it off, it's fly. You know, so, and I love that. I love that about, I think, what an embrace of, and what really queer culture has done to this country is really allow us to let go of the gender binary so strongly that has wrongly defined us, right?
Yeah. Now, yes, there's more on this. it would be one thing if Candace Owens just sat out there by herself looking like an idiot, but this is right-wing grift and there's money to be made here. So others are gonna jump in front to make clear to their audience that they're just as stupid in this way. And so we've got a couple, including manly men such as Ben Shapiro, says to her comment, this is perfectly obvious. Anyone who pretends that it is not a referendum on masculinity for men to don floofy dresses is treating you as a full-on idiot. I subscribe to all of this. I believe that this is what men should be like. Matt Walsh says Candace Owens is trending because a bunch of whiny idiots are mad that she said men who wear dresses aren't manly. So look at the flaccid mental jujitsu right there. The people who are pushing back against her attacking Harry Styles, they're whiny. Her totally bringing up out of nowhere his magazine cover, that's not whiny. Her implying that any man would dare to wear clothes she doesn't approve of, that's not whiny. It's people who are just responding to her like, dude, just live your life. Or like maybe my opinion is considered whiny, where I say, I think the very idea of a real man is stupid. Like as Francesca said, it's a self-imposed prison that means literally nothing. But if there is a real man, you know what real men don't do? Go around worrying a lot about what other men wear on their legs. Yes. I don't think a strong alpha man is like, a skirt, how could you? I don't think that's what they do. I just don't.
Ben Shapiro, what an emblem of masculinity. You know, when I think masculine, manly man, I think, just a higher octave than letting a balloon air out, just like, but like imagine if that were a person, like, that's Ben Shapiro. That is the manliest man, the guy who doesn't like WAP because it scares him.
Just gonna say,
who doesn't even
before me.
Yeah, doesn't even think WAP is a thing. But also, can I just make a plug for floofy dresses? Okay. Everyone should wear a floofy dress in their lifetime. As a teenager, I would go into Bloomingdale's, try on all the floofy dresses, not buy a single one, just to sort of feel pretty and whatever, and like wear something you'd never wear ever, 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 ever. Every man, woman, child, and in between should wear a floofy dress. I think everyone should wear a suit. I love suits. I think they look amazing. I've never really like pulled off a nice suit, but like, ooh, they're so clean and beautiful. But same with floofy dresses. Wear a floofy dress. Go into a Bloomingdale's, go into a dressing room, get a whatever size you need, try it on. Yeah. It'll make you feel better. I mean, maybe when COVID is done, but it will make you feel better. I swear to God.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I also want to credit Manny Fidel on Twitter for agreeing with her, saying, "Hell yes, bring back manly men like the founding fathers." Those dudes are butch. The man who single-handedly made America. Let's take a look at him. That's a man. That's a real man. Look at my horse's butt. I'm a man.
Because that's a Mike Pence man right there.
The whole thing is just so stupid. And people in the chat are talking about kilts, for instance. That's a great point. So Ben Shapiro, in his long chain of thoughts about this, says that's a stupid argument, but he doesn't actually engage with it. He gets that it's out there, that yes, there are cultures where the manliest men wear things that are basically skirts or dresses, but he won't engage with it because that would require actually acknowledging that what is masculine or feminine changes over time and by geography. It's arbitrary, it shifts. It used to be that you'd wear a big dress, like a big wig, and you'd powder your cheeks and everything, and that was considered manly. It changes even within our own lifetime. What hairstyle is considered manly? All of it's arbitrary. He doesn't want to actually open up his mind to that realization that none of it means literally anything. And to the extent that it does, if you have one man who literally could not put on a dress without feeling so nervous and concerned about what people think about him, and another man who can, masculinity's stupid, but that guy clearly has more of whatever it is. He's clearly more comfortable with himself, and that at the end of the day is what we're talking about. We're talking about people accruing a sense of confidence and competence, and that has nothing to do with your gender or your identity or anything. It's something that all of us has to come to grips with, but they are very scared about that. They want constrained rules that they can sort of follow and then feel comfortable. Like, I've done it. I've done what I had to do to be considered a man.
Yo, Photoshop Ben Shapiro's face on every single Vogue cover and tell me by the end of the week if he doesn't consider, if he's not like, I love that. That's amazing. Hey, I wore that better than Beyonce. Like he would love it. It's jealousy. It is absolute jealousy. The fact that Harry Styles pulled it off, the fact that he was unafraid to do it, and that you're just stuck in your own little prison is jealousy. Candace Owens is on some other BS. Candace Owens is like literally just finding ways to still be relevant.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a sense of desperation to it. Yeah, and by the way, just two other quick thoughts. One, go track down Jordan Yule's tweet about this because he points out that we should bring back Manly Men, and he has an awesome photo of Ken Klippenstein. Anyway, but then also, and this is just an appeal, I do it every once in a while to any of the, whether you're a Trump fan or just a conservative who's watching this. When I attack conservative masculinity, I'm not necessarily attacking you. I probably am. I'm not necessarily attacking you. I'm not saying necessarily that conservatives are betas or cucks, to use your terms. I'm just saying the guys you choose to represent you are 100% beta cucks. You're like, seriously, like Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, all these are your, like, you guys care about masculinity more than literally anything. And these are the guys that you choose to represent you. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson wore a bow tie for years. Really?
Now,
okay.
If he had pulled it off, awesome. You know who probably could pull it off? I bet Harry Styles probably looks pretty good in a bow tie. But Tucker, you didn't. And you were too stupid to realize it for years until Jon Stewart forced you to take a look in the mirror. And you didn't like what you saw. Anyway. Francesca, thank you as always.
John, thank you. Have a great week.
You too. Where can people see more of your work?
Oh yeah, we'll watch the latest episode of Newsbroke. We talk all about how to prevent a future Donald Trump, and that all depends on the Democrats. That was our last episode of the season, so definitely watch that. And because we're a news show that doesn't have the budget of John Oliver's show. Otherwise, I'd probably continue. Yeah, and listen to the Bitchuation Room wherever you get your podcasts and on my YouTube channel, Franny Fio.
Well, the funny thing is that John Oliver does have the budget of a John Oliver, and they're not continuing for now. They'll be back in February or something.
John Dunn,
but it was a great episode.
Iadarola doesn't understand the concept of a vacation, so.
I understand a vacation. I don't understand like a 3-month vacation. There's still news, dude. He's not gonna come back until after the inauguration. No, like, and I remember in 2016, he did one episode after Trump got elected, and then he was gone for months. It's bananas.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe it's not up to him. Okay, Francesca, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
You.
For those of you at home, let's read just a few of your comments. Oh, I wanted to read one more tweet from Dave Holmes, who says, "Hi, it's November of 2020, and Western civilization is doomed because Harry Styles' legs are not in their own separate fabric tubes." That's what it's about. Seriously, it doesn't matter. You can wear whatever you want. Do you know what kind of pants, if any, I'm wearing? You don't. Does it matter? Maybe. Other people could walk in here, but I'm just saying, do you? Ferret Queen said to Super Chat saying, "There's a busy laundromat in my neighborhood where no one wears masks. It's in a very poor area, so if they get sick, they will not be able to afford help. I called the health department, it's still open. FFS. Yeah, every business should require it. It's not complicated. Later, Rhea says, "I don't understand the economics of killing your audience. Fox main guys have no spine. Even Tucker started the pandemic saying it was real to wear a mask. As soon as they saw pushback, they got in line." Exactly, yeah. Sean Hannity is pathetic and murderous in the effect that he had, but he at least was consistent. Tucker Carlson like kind of pretended to care, and then he saw that like the ones who weren't pretending to care were getting more fans, and so he started telling the audience that they should do stuff that will inevitably kill some of them. Like, you know, he has a much bigger audience than me. He makes much more money than me. I'm sure he lives in a fabulous house that I will never live in. But I don't encourage my fans to kill themselves or their loved ones. So I'm gonna say win for Johnny there in the media wars. Anyway, okay. Chris Rickard says, "The problem is that the internet is a source for self-confirming information, not factual information. They watch and read things that confirm their beliefs. Fact checking be damned." That's true, and that's true of most types of people. We will try to fight back. Okay, Darren Butler says, looked at TYT because they also have you live. You have 4 times more views. Nice, love Franny. That's funny. Well, yeah, but people know to come here. But thank you. I didn't know that it was actually broadcasting live on TYT. That's cool. Let's see. Black Gay Comic Geek says conservative minds would be blown when they find out high heels, wigs, makeup, skirts, leggings, purses, and even crop tops were originally for men. And some men look fabulous in them right now. Like it doesn't. None of this means anything unless we choose to. I did an appearance recently. You can go track it down. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago called Behind the Masculinity, hosted by Christian, who you know is Anna's husband. He has an awesome podcast. We talked about it, and I admitted that I think that masculinity is stupid and doesn't mean anything. But we also talked about the ways it intersects with politics and everything. Go take a look at it if you want more of my thoughts about right wingers and the grift of masculinity and all of that. I'm sick of it now because these are the people that have huge audiences and they get paid tons of money. And look, I get that some of them get paid this money specifically to focus on this sort of thing so their audience won't think about actually solving the real problems. I get that. Very frustrating. By the way, over on hashtag TDR Live on Twitter, D. Peterson Carpenter put out a photo of their Dragon Squad mug, and it's awesome. I love it. That's really cool. Cool dragon face. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We got a big week planned for you. You know who's coming on the show this week? Dan Evans from the internet is gonna be on the show, as well as Jason Carter. We always have a great time with both of them. We're gonna walk through this week. Is this the week where Trump finally concedes? Probably not, but if it is, we'll be watching. Hopefully you'll be watching. And until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.